You are tuned in to a Fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Today, my guest is GEORGE Kavassilas, who returns to complete the second of two shows. In 2003, George was to have an experience that changed everything. His conscious spirit traveled up through the dimensions of our universe, and he rediscovered what life here is all about. He was able to know with certainty who we all are, where we come from, and where we are headed. He is here to reveal the deception and lies being imposed upon humanity from behind the scenes. His true intent is to empower people from within, which allows for better decisions during this time of great change. To facilitate our journey home, he has just come out with his first book called Our Universal Journey. I've had the privilege of reading it, and I can honestly say that this book is one of the most comprehensive and influential books of our times, and I recommend that everybody read it. It's a must-read. It will be highly controversial and divisive, since truth is not always wrapped in pretense. I encourage everyone to read it and trust that it will kindle awakening, universal love, and understanding. For those who resonate to George's workshops and DVDs, you will savor every word of this inspired writing. So let's welcome George back to the show now. Hi, George. Welcome back.
Good morning, Lance, and good evening, shall I say, as well.
Right. Good evening, good motto, good afternoon. Well, doesn't it seem like time is flying? It just seems like we were talking seconds ago, and here we are again having another chat.
Yeah, it really is accelerating. Yeah,
it is accelerating. Do you feel that this is going to be a situation that will continue on into 2012 and 2013? The acceleration.
Yeah, I do. It for me, it is part of the timeline accelerating, which I've been sharing with the harmonic equations. I've been sharing to do with the timelines, and for me, it's like a logarithmic exponential acceleration, and as we're heading towards 0 point. And I think it's very, very exciting because we're bringing everything back into balance, and just that process of turning inside out, it really is quite challenging. I would say it's very challenging. At times confronting, and at times incredibly exhilarating, and it's a path of contrast, isn't it? Because we're bringing in balance to fragmented aspects of ourselves. So I feel it's incredibly exciting.
Now, this is a time when you say turning inside out, that's actually a literal process. Which has to do with quantum physics and the toroid and the rest of that. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit. But also, you mentioned the fragmentation. Isn't this a time when the fragments are, some of the fragments are coming together, or does each have its own journey in this process as we reach 0 point? And how do you see that playing out? Obviously, we're not all headed for the same island in the sky.
No, it is a little bit like Grand Central Station, where people are going in different directions and what have you. People have come here for short periods of time, and they've done what they've come here to do, and they're going to soon head off to wherever they need to go back to. Other people are here for a specific, intended outcome, which is I'm one of those people. And I came here to balance everything out so I could reintegrate myself back into a state of synchronicity and harmony and integrated oneness, if you want to put it that way. But it's more than just that. It's about reconnecting with our this happens at the same time symbiotically. We're reintegrating and reconnecting consciously aware with it's a conscious awareness integration and reconnection with our eternal essence. So it really is about being eternal once again. This aspect of us being eternal again, and it's an incredible feeling and process, because that's the key to it. It's about eternity. It's about infinite. It's about that immortality. And once you realise the power that comes with that state of being and that knowing, it's really quite incredible. We are sorry to pause there for a moment, but like you said, we are integrating our fragmented aspects, and it's kind of like we hear that statement, and it's quite an intellectual concept that we first begin with, because that's the processes that we're used to, and to really integrate these fragmented aspects, it's a process of healing and mending those rifts, those wounds that are internal wounds. They're internal rifts, and when we reintegrate them, we are mending those wounds. And for me, that's what I've been experiencing. And when you do that, you feel such an incredible sense of peace and just this state of grace. It's an incredible feeling. I really highly recommend it to anybody. Right.
Do you have a particular process that you use, or are you simply reintegrating what comes up as it arises and looking at it and processing it and releasing it?
Exactly, because in that, what you just explained is really flow, because if you do it from any other way, you come from a headspace of forcing the issue, trying to make it happen, and therefore you're actually functioning from your earthly personality, your earthly ego, or your cosmic ego. So having that flow is reconnecting with your eternal essence and allowing just the flow to pour forth from within, to emanate like a fountain. And when you do that, the process becomes natural, and things just arise when they happen. And our earthly personalities struggle at times with that process because it's not in control. And as much as it wants to be.
No kidding.
And there are times when we had plans in our lives and we wanted to do certain things, and those plans just get thrown out the window.
Oh yeah, thank goodness.
Something else that's come to the surface from within that needs addressing. So in that flow, you've really got to ebb and flow with the way things go, and expect the unexpected at times.
Yes, it absolutely feels to me like we're in it now. And I like the expression "go with the flow," because in each moment that we're present, even if we're not present, the teachings are all right in front of us. It could be as simple as dropping something on the floor, and you bend over to pick it up, and you see something else that happened to be there, and it's like Sherlock Holmes following the bread trails or the clues back to the brightest star. And I think we know intuitively, because we're programmed to go back to the brightest star, but we get sidetracked sometimes in a few dark alleys. And so I suspect a lot of people are going to have difficulties with their belief systems. And the wonderful thing about your book is that it shatters. If a person is open enough, it plants the seeds to shatter many of the preconceived ideas that we've digested automatically, that are not, we've never verified for ourselves. They were just handed to us and then force-fed.
Yeah, it does. It does do that. It did it to me while I was writing it.
Oh.
When I started writing the book, I had ideas about life.
Yeah, right.
And they were, my ideas haven't changed all that much, but some key areas have changed. And people need to realise just how much of an effect the book had on me personally as well. It was incredibly cathartic process while I was writing it. So I'm definitely not above and beyond the process whatsoever. I can assure you of that.
Right. Very good. Well, now, if there, maybe I'm thinking from a limited viewpoint, but if you're here to help balance, and many people are here to raise the vibration of the planet, or ground higher energies, bring the energies up, help Gaia ascend, and so on and so forth into the next reality. It seems that from a limited perspective of time, if you look at it linearly, there isn't a great deal of time left. If you look at the 2012 window, which apparently could be closing, or at least it could be starting to close in March of 2013. And yet many reputable astrologers continue to talk about the astrology that goes on beyond then and what happens in difficult times and so on and so forth. So how can we think about this and contain these different ideas without negating any of them?
Yeah, really good question. I would say that the more we go into our hearts, the more we reconnect with our relationship with this planet.
Oh, yeah.
And because it's a symbiotic relationship, we then begin to understand not only our journey, but also her journey.
Mm-hmm.
And when you understand her journey, then you understand the journey of humanity, the collective human soul. Mm-hmm. And that is what gives you a good feel for where we're at and what's coming. And in the process of me achieving that, there's a couple of times I thought I had it, but I didn't quite have it. And but I truly feel that from the point of view of the planet being a living being, she no longer wants to have this process of death and destruction on her body. It's kind of like she has facilitated this epoch and this era, and she's carried that energetic pattern long enough. She said she would do it for a period of time, for a cycle of time. Mm-hmm. And this is what's coming to an end. That era and that epoch is what's coming to an end. Mm-hmm. And the extent of which the changes are going to be, I still feel they're going to be much greater than people realise. Mm-hmm. And I feel that everything has to change, not just us. It's also the natural environment that needs to change, because everything out there is killing everything in order to survive. And that's a very low vibration, and that whole environment, natural environment, the energetic patterns associated with that is an incredibly heavy load to be carrying. And that I feel at the end of the cycle is what this new energy is coming in now, and I feel it's accelerating. And as it gets right towards the end of the cycle, it'll reach the point of being really, really intense. And so this energy will come in from a subatomic level, will come to the surface, because it'll come out from within everything. And this will be transformed. Now, whether it takes a year, 2 years, or whatever, or a few months, I'm not going to go with timelines. All I'm going to say is that I still feel it's going to happen sooner rather than later. And I came to this planet in this lifetime to do this, to experience this, to make this change, not only within myself, but to facilitate this change, help in facilitating the change on the planet as well. So I feel that the whole thing is going to change. It's got the financial systems. You've got the what we call civilization, which is totally uncivilized.
Right.
Infrastructure.
Healthcare that kills us. Banks that don't save money, they steal it.
This whole infrastructure will be dismantling quite quickly after that.
Yeah, it feels that way to me too, especially given the fact that we have been living in basically the same technology with just a few things that have been tossed to us as consolation prizes by the ruling families and the elite and the powers that were. And there is at least 100 years of technology that we know of, and probably thousands of years of technology that's being concealed from us that has to be made public or come out in the process of the becoming transparent and the revelations that are going to be occurring about the Vatican and all the secret projects and the governments and how all that stuff works together, the ET agenda, the archons, and so on. So it seems that so many scientists are working on their own and have come up with independent solutions for free energy, because we know that free energy is free. There's an abundance of power. And so it's possible that there could be an instant transformation practically overnight were all that to be released, and those that are holding it back be held back from keeping it from being released. So there's so many different things that could happen, but
I feel that and I've written about this in the book. I address that all these issues about free energy and technologies and all that's all well and good. It is, though, still within the cosmic drama. And
right.
I say to people that I feel that we're going to a state of being that's beyond any technology. Because we can function just from pure organic consciousness and achieve far more than what any kind of technology can achieve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that one.
So, so
I mean, that's where it's at, you know.
Yearning and aching for better ways and better technologies, and we're aching for financial freedom and all those sorts of issues. It's really important that we don't allow our yearning and our aching for an improvement of our current circumstances. To cloud our powers of discernment, and then your yearning and aching and turns into desperation.
Yeah.
And then we just want a relief from our current circumstances, and we end up accepting something better, because that is a classic issue of problem, reaction, solution.
The solution, right.
And I would say to people, that is exactly the agenda on a cosmic scale.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty clear. Yeah, so we need to look within first, and then go for the highest possible. Dream big, and then dream bigger, and then when you've done that, use your imagination to go beyond that. So, because as you point out in the book, we come in from the 13th density or 13th dimension, from beyond there, and we become so accustomed to being treated as chattel and slavery, as less than, that we're just practically we feel like bugs on the planet of the Earth in comparison with those who have simply declared that they are our rulers and masters, and that's just such a bunch of hooliganism, and I think that for sure is going to change, and some of these things must come out in 3D. It would seem before or as the frequencies begin to raise.
Yeah, they will. I mean, I've been talking about it for the last few years, and we're still waiting for that one big domino to fall in the public arena, because when that does, that's when you go, okay, here we go. It's
right.
Get the popcorn out of the cupboard, or get ready to act, or depend on each individual's journey. That's when we say, hang on to your hat, because we're in for a big ride.
Right. That reminds me of the movie V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what you said earlier about connecting, going within and connecting with nature. Of course, people in cities are obsessed with they're being mind controlled to look at their clocks and go to work and be on time and do this and do that, and it's pretty obvious for most of us that this is just a trap. But for me, living out in the country, I have had so much fun connecting with just the nature and surroundings around me, and planting vegetables and feeding the birds and talking to the hummingbirds. I mean, I talked to literally everything, even the insects on the ground. And It's becoming kind of like an adventure, when I walk around the property and just, what am I going to find today? So I'm having fun anyway.
Yeah. No, it is like that. You do end up having a completely different experience and realize that they're all people.
Yeah. Have a little respect.
We've got expressions as bugs. We're bugs.
Right.
Well, I said I've met myself as a tree here on this planet. So I'm expressing myself as a tree as well as this human form. I've met myself as an animal on this planet.
Wow.
I'm aware of myself as these different expressions, and we're not just in this human form. We're also experiencing ourselves in other kingdoms as well.
Yes.
So I would say to people, and then we've also got all our different expressions out there in the cosmos, in the galactic arena, and we're stars, we're planets, we're galaxies, we're dolphin beings, we're lion beings, we're reptilians, we're dragons, we're bird beings, it's incredible how many expressions of life we've explored. And when I say we've fragmented ourselves into, it's about projecting. This is about projection and experiencing. That's what it's really all about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I seem to be coming to the understanding that this is literally a projection, and it's a holographic projection. And so I'm beginning to ponder following the light of the hologram back up to its source to see where it's being projected from. And the nearest I can figure is the sun is the next best thing to glance at. And then beyond that, there's, I guess, the galactic center, and then there's a core, the black hole core of the galaxies. But the sun's energy seems to be positive to me.
Well, for me, it's incredibly a wonderful thing, because not only has this being, who is the solar system itself, who is the sun, facilitating this incredible experience for us, and not only have we, anyone who is an organic incarnation here, has made an agreement with the being that is the sun to enter into its embodiment and have this wonderful experience that we're having, even as challenging as it may be. We also, what people don't understand is that the light of the sun is, what we experience as the light of the sun is a higher aspect of you, a higher aspect of me, a higher aspect of everybody who's an organic incarnation here, is that we have an aspect of ourselves in the sun. You see, how as we come to any reality, first we make an agreement with the consciousness and the being that is that reality. Then we project to the most foundational core pattern, which is the highest vibration, pretty much, of that reality, and we merge and become one with that. And so we've merged and become one with the sun. There's a part of us that is in the sun, and it's a higher aspect of ourselves, and it's light, and therefore the light of the sun is a symphony and a harmony of your light, your soul light, my soul light, everyone's light, and the light of the sun is our light. Not only the being who is the sun, but the emanations from the sun contain our own higher light. That's the key. This is the golden key. This is what Akhenaten was trying to explain to people. It wasn't about creating a religion. The priesthoods did that after this being came and went. So, what Akhenaten was trying to say is, look, here is the light and the energy of the sun. It manifests everything into being in this reality we call the solar system. It is the source of all life here in this domain. Just like this planet, the consciousness and the being who is this planet is the source of all life here on this planetary body. And we enter this domain and we experience it. And yes, it's a holograph. On one level, it's a hologram. But at the same time, even though you understand that the construct of life here don't allow that to spoil or devalue your experience here, because a lot of people are using that to devalue what's going on here. Go beyond that. It's like sitting down and watching your television and only thinking about the electrical signals going into the power supply, from there going into your video card, and your tuner receiving the signals, decoding that, and then the the LCD, the liquid crystals at the back with the LEDs illuminating them, and you're just sitting there and you're constantly thinking that, and you're missing the whole movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You're missing the essence of the movie. So what I'm saying to people is, don't. Okay, it's one thing to understand the construct of life here, but the value of entering this hologram and having this experience of reintegrating everything, don't let that spoil and devalue what's going on here, because reintegrating yourself, all your fragmented aspects in the universe, is the most important thing you're ever going to do in this universal journey. Yes,
yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, what's going on? For some reason, I'm seeing an image of the moon. What's going on with the moon these days? I read all kinds of strange things about underground bases have been destroyed, and the reptilians have been thrown out, and I mean, there's a lot of interesting yak chatter going on the internet. Didn't you say something at one point that the moon? I've always thought that all the moons are artificial and they're placed there for a reason, for control. Isn't there a possibility of a time when the moon will be moved and the Earth will tilt back into its proper balanced orbit? And maybe not as this planet, but...
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with that. I've been saying that for some time, and I feel that, I still feel that. The moon... I've had personal interactions with the beings on the moon, and that is their home now. They can't live on a planet. The vibration of a planet will kill them. And they can no longer live on any mother or father planet because of who and what they have become. And everywhere you go in the cosmos has its own unique vibrational reality. I'll give you an example. Okay. Every time you go somewhere, you go to a person's house and you visit their home, it has a particular feel. You go to someone else's home, and that house has a different energy, it has a different feel. You go to one party, and that has a feel and a particular vibe. You go to someone else's party and has a different feel and different vibe. So what I'm trying to explain is that every reality, everywhere you go in the cosmos, has its own unique vibrational pattern, its own feel. And for every time I went into a craft with a particular race of beings, I was in their vibrational pattern. And a lot of the time they had to create an energetic pattern around me, so me in my appropriate energetic spacesuit, if you want to put it that way.
Right.
Because it was no good for my energetic patterns to be blending with theirs. It would be unhealthy for me and unhealthy for them. And so that's the key to understanding how challenging it is to travel around, if you want to look at it from just a 3D perspective. It's not such a straightforward thing. It's not just about atmospheric conditions. It's also about electromagnetic conditions and light wave conditions and ethereal templates and what have you. It goes very deep. So the moon has its own vibration, and these beings can no longer live anywhere else. There are some similar vibratory places, but anyway, that moon will have to move from here, because when Mother Earth becomes, a body of light, and the energies will be too intense and will be detrimental to the moon. And the meetings and the deliberations I've had with beings on the moon is that, yes, it's going to be taken out of here. And my understanding is it's going to go back around Mars for a while.
Interesting. Well, the thought occurred to me that if she becomes a body of light, that maybe some of these prophecies that we're looking outside of ourselves for all these prophecies, out in the skies, and of course we know that the galaxies and the universes are in us. Maybe the blue star Kashina we're on it. Maybe that is a future Earth, the one that doesn't consume anything, that is pure light, and that exists at a high enough vibration that there is no a need to eat or consume other animals or flesh or kill, and everything is transparent and telepathic.
Yeah, that's. I feel that's where we're headed. Whether she's going to end up being a blue light,
right, or another color, indigo, or slightly magenta.
Magenta is an energy that I've been feeling strongly of late, but that just could be where I'm at in my journey. And that's the way I'm experiencing her at the moment. So for me, if there's two colours I would choose, it's either going to be a like a blue, sort of indigo-y, deep blue indigo colour, and a magenta colour. So, but that's just, I would say, on a part of speculation at this stage. I'm not really 100% sure. But yeah, she's becoming a body of light, and that theory about the second sun appearing and things like that, I tend to agree that it's more of a reference to this planet becoming a body of light. It's interesting how people thought it was going to be Jupiter because of the 3D understanding of that planet being a ball of gas, which really it isn't. And the comet hitting it, and they thought, well, that's going to ignite Jupiter, and that'll become the second sun. I got a feeling it's going to be this one. That's going to be the second sun.
Well, I have another idea that could be thrown out there, too. Since we know that the sun now is quadrupolar, it's no longer bipolar, it's quadrupolar, there's 4 poles. It reminds me of the process just before a cell divides. And if in the sun's lifetime, perhaps this is a process where it, too, becomes 4, and then the 4 become 2 separate beings. Perhaps one is a higher vibrational being, and perhaps the one is less than. It stays and keeps the rejects warm at night.
Yeah,
that's just a joke.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. Yeah, the division of cells. And
then the Earth too. If it's turning, there's an idea that there's an inner Earth and an outer Earth. Perhaps in that flip of moment, there's a flip where those who are not vibrationally compatible with a higher vibration continue with the lower frequencies, which are still higher than this one, because this one still needs to be transformed. And then those who are in the higher frequencies move on into the light realm, and perhaps we become the inner Earth.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well,
I'm just
my understanding of the inner Earth, because I've experienced the earthly realm on a higher dimension myself. My understanding of the inner Earth is, how in order to access the higher frequencies, we need to go within.
Yes.
To get into the higher realities and aspects of self. That's the way it is with the Earth too. When you go within yourself, you end up going into the core of the Earth and experiencing a higher aspect of yourself there, because there is a higher aspect of yourself in the heart and the core of our Earth Mother as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people are getting that concept a little bit twisted and mixed up with a group of ETs living inside the Earth.
Right.
So I would say to people, when you hear about beings coming from a very high vibration that live within the Earth, the concept is the inner, the true, as far as I'm concerned, the true inner Earth concept is the higher domains, the higher realities, like the fifth dimension. You've got to go into your heart to access those energies and those realities. It's the same. You've got to go into the heart of Mother Earth to it's kind of like a bit of a portal to the higher dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
It's not civilizations living in the crust, or like there's an inner sun and they live on the inner surface of the crust. That is all, I would say that's a pretty good story, because it's people who are viewing life from more of a a 3D mechanical sort of perspective. So it's difficult for them to perceive a higher dimensional reality. So they perceive it as though they're living on the inside of the crust, if you know what I mean. It's a 3D analytical mechanical mind intellectual concept of trying to deal with the concept of inner earth and beings living in a higher dimension. They can't get to understand how high dimensions are accessed. So if you can understand it from the point of view of yourself, that you are accessing higher frequencies and dimensions, you've got to go within your heart to do that. It's the same with the earth. You've got to go into the heart of Mother Earth, and that is the doorway into the higher dimensions.
And doesn't it seem that the heartbeats of all of us that are moving into the heart and moving out of the mind activity are being synchronized together, so that all the hearts that are beating, all animal life, the heart of the earth and the planets, the heart of the sun, when we're aligning with the immediate heart of our mother, it seems that there's a unity and a harmoniousness that occurs with that process.
Wow, I never actually thought about that. Are you talking about our physical heartbeats?
Yeah.
Wow, I never actually thought about it that way before. I always felt, our hearts beating as one is sort of like an energetic synchronization. Wow, that's really an incredible concept. I'm going to feel into that further because that's really awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Wow.
In my meditations, I've noticed my blood pressure going sky high and down to practically near death, and I noticed my heart being changed without me doing anything at all, not using drugs or anything like that or drinking, and I began to feel the rhythms that I was tuning to, and it was like tuning. I call it tuning. And there are times when I'm more aware of it. Most of the times I'm not fully conscious at all. So, but those few times, it actually feels like the heart is being literally brought into sync and synchronization with the heartbeat of the earth and with the heartbeat of the animals, and that is the place where they all communicate telepathically.
Wow, that is fantastic. Yeah. Thanks, Lance.
Oh. It was nothing. You're welcome. Thank you. So let's see. What can we talk about now? What's one of the most important things that you feel we need to understand and start to get a grip on? Since we're running out of time. No, since we're running I never thought I'd make it to 2012, and here we are in July already, and, there's just months away before December. And then a few more months and we're into March. So, from one point of view, time is running out, and from another, we have infinite time because time is not linear, and it can be accessed from any point and in anywhere and any when. So, and it's constantly being tweaked from the past and the future and so on and so forth. So, what do you recommend for people to start to contemplate? Well, I say they should just get your book and read it and contemplate that. That's the easiest thing to do.
I recommend that too.
There's so much in it. You have packed everything in it. It's like the TARDIS, Doctor Who's TARDIS. It looks like a police box, and when he opens it up, he walks in, and it's the size of a football field. This is a deceptive book. I mean, it has information packed and embedded in it that is just, I think it's going to be a mind blower for lots of people, and a read and reread and reread. So I recommend that people get the book. But until people do that, what's something that you think would be important at this time of our process?
I would have to say the biggest issue that people have is understanding that energy of manipulation is a duplicitous force. I so feel that is important. And if let me explain. The energies that are manipulating us have learned how to manipulate both sides of the frequency spectrum of light, both the positive and the negative. And think of us as the middle part in a balance between the two. Lance, just before I go any further, I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
Okay.
A bit of echo. So I don't know if you could turn your speakers down just a little bit or something.
All right. I don't know. I'm not hearing it, so okay. Let's just continue on and
Okay. So our cell, if you look at it from the point of view that we are beings of light, our cell walls have crystal linings. And our neurons have these little things in them called microtubules. And they're kind of like, they were thought to be like scaffolding that held together, the building blocks that held together the neurons. Since then, they have found out that they are made of a crystal lattice, and therefore they are a communication network for conscious light. Because we are light, that we are pure light, and therefore the communication network, we're not just electromagnetic in nature. We actually are light beings, and we are a fractal of the universe, therefore we are a universal light being. And we're birthing into that in its full capacity. There's going to be programs of manipulation that are light-based. And the reason this isn't being discussed is because we've been plunged really deep down into this incredible matrix of manipulation. And most of it was like based on desires and wants and, all that sort of stuff, and mind control here and there. And then there's the next level of it, which is more of an electromagnetic form of matrix and manipulation, which is coming from the moon and you. But what isn't being discussed is cosmic matrix and the fabric, the nature of a cosmic matrix, which is a light-based matrix. And it's a synthetic light-based matrix. And that's being manipulated. And there's this incredible, I would say, enchanted entrapment of humanity taking place with all these incredible meditative practices, meditative techniques. I'm going to send you 2 photos. I'll even send you the link to the website, which shows these people thinking it's a wonderful thing about the Kundalini energy coming up your spine and coming out the top of your head. And a lot of people feel that is enlightenment. And I know in my heart that it is not, because I'm not going to go through my head to achieve enlightenment. I'm going to go through my heart. I want heart-based enlightenment, not head-based enlightenment. And I call it candy, cosmic candy. It's enchanted entrapment of humanity. I'm labeling it cosmic candy because they're coming here with all these pretty colours, pretty lights, and offering all these programs that bliss people out. And whether somebody is involved in religion, be it Christianity, be it Hindu, be it Islam, be it whatever your religion is, it is no different to the New Age movement and what we call the chakra system and the Kundalini, because the Kundalini in Christianity is the Holy Ghost. The chakras are the 7 seals. The pineal, you've got the pine cone outside the Vatican. A lot of people feel that is some sort of head code and hidden knowledge. It got turned into hidden knowledge to make it more stickable, to make it more wanted. You create this aura of secrecy around something that people want it. It's a very clever technique that's been used on humanity to make them think that is something special they need to attain, and achieve. So I would say beware the cosmic candy is probably the easiest way to put it.
You're right.
Put it. And I'm also going to call it the enchanted entrapment of humanity. So beware the bliss and the bliss programs.
Right.
They're doing enough on everybody at the moment.
Well, it does seem that a lot of people are setting themselves up as gurus and teachers, and I was just reading somebody's book, and I thought it was pretty insightful, and then I sent an email off to the person, and they've established worldwide centers, and they call them ambassadors, and, they've got a whole hierarchy set up, and I thought, well, I've been in cults before. I was in an esoteric school studying Gurdjieff and Ouspensky, and once was enough.
Yeah.
We need to own our own power and find, and as you say, that was the first time I ever started really focusing on the within, the light within, was when you started talking about it and feeling the light within and expanding that and not pulling it in from outside myself, which is bringing in who knows what. It could be one of these false synthetic programs. It's really difficult for us humans to tell the difference between a synthetic program and something that might be more real. The brain can't distinguish between a real event and something that it's imagined or seen on the television. So, and then if this is a hologram, then none of it's real. So we're dreaming within a dream within a dream. So it's time to wake up, and I think it's time to take our own power and become the sovereign beings that we are, will be, and have always been.
Here, I totally agree with you. And that inner light, we've received emails from people from all over the world, Lance, and this one lady said that she changed her meditation techniques, like she was running meditation classes. And she was using, the angels, ascended masters, and all the usual New Age sort of programs and doctrines.
Yeah.
And she said she changed her meditation technique. She lost a few students, but has gained many more in the process, because the meditation techniques that they're using now is about getting their...
Okay, so George, we had just a momentary glitch on the screen. So let's just pick up where we left off, and we can head into the last 10, 15 minutes of the show.
Okay, thank you. Interesting time that it occurred. I was saying that people were changing their meditation techniques and starting to bring their inner light out, as you've experienced, and I certainly have experienced for myself. And really, I've got to say, it's so empowering instead of externalizing. And people, we used to be trained, I suppose, and programmed to bring light in from outside of us, down through the crown chakra and what have you, and use the light from an ascended master and all these sorts of things. And that's giving you power away. That's externalizing.
That's right.
Just because it's a light, it's an energy, doesn't mean it's not a substance that you're consuming. And if people can understand it from that way, it's incredible how many people consume a particular energy or a light substance and they bliss out. They're getting stoned on certain energies, and it might sound like I'm being a bit harsh, but I'm not, because I've experienced all this stuff myself, and I am talking from first-hand experience. Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, and it is another way that we can, this is a labyrinth or a maze, and there are so many different ways that we can make wrong turns, and because everywhere you look, you can make a wrong turn. It's set up that way. This particular game that we're playing here on planet Earth is designed to trap us. So they did a good job of it, but it's time to see the traps and start moving in the other direction, because we don't need those anymore. And I think as we stop needing to be trapped in traps and tortured and abused and, manipulated and, so on and so forth, that we're going to find such a level of freedom and empowerment we'll wonder why we ever wanted to be lost in this crazy place in the first place.
Oh, it's the challenge. It's the challenge.
Oh, yeah.
We
it's
want it to
ride,
be tested.
And, some people, when they get off the roller coaster, they get back on it and do it again.
Yeah. I also want to say a real incredible key here is even though we talk about these systems of control and we expose what's going on with the deception and we expose the beings that are doing it and what have you, it's good to do that. It's important to do that.
Yes.
I feel it's a very important part of the process.
Yes.
It's also important not to just get caught up and only take it that far, because then you're getting caught up in the drama vortex. Very, very important. And this is another golden key to enlightenment and empowerment and sovereignty, and that is gratitude.
Oh, yes.
And if we can rise above victimhood and the blame game, because we're not just playing the blame game by exposing and discussing and discerning. We're not blaming and we're not blindly judging. What Lance and I are talking about here is it's good to do that, but let's not just stop there. Let's go and take it all the way, and let's be grateful for their service.
Yes.
Because from a higher perspective of our own selves, they're the creators of these lives that we're having.
That's
so
right.
Therefore, on one level, we made an agreement with these beings. So we contracted them to come here and do this to us.
Yep.
And that's getting beyond victimhood. That's ownership. That's responsibility.
Yep.
And when you can be grateful for all the misery and all the suffering that you have experienced, then wow, that is so powerful. And I highly, highly recommend doing that.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. If I hadn't had the experiences that I had, and some of them were pretty, controversial and not any more than anybody else's, but they were, they were not enlightened experiences, but I wouldn't be the person that I am today. If I hadn't been taken to the depths, I wouldn't be able to begin to rise out of them and see the light of a higher reality. So everything that's happened to us has helped create who we are today. And when we stuff certain aspects that are judged by ourselves and by other people within, it festers and it becomes either a disease or a psychological problem that manifests in some bizarre, freaky way. And I have a tendency to think that people like Jeffrey Dahmer, who everybody abhors, is merely the spokesperson for all of the people who have repressed their own inability to love and be loved, and that he simply has risen to the top as a collective reminder of all of our, responsibility for holding in that which needs to be forgiven, released, and thanked for what it has done and shown us. It's all lessons.
Yeah, I'm not sure who you were referring to. Who was it? Jeffrey
Dahmer. He was the one that, it was big news. He was cannibalizing these young boys and eating the body parts, and just a normal, good-looking guy.
I've never heard about that.
My goodness! To look it up on Google, it was huge over here in the States. I guess you guys have your own counterparts, but and from another angle, he had to agree as an incarnate to take on that role, to reflect in the mirror of all that is our own problems, our own containments. And where everybody's getting self-righteous, and the most self-righteous people are probably the ones that need to look within the most. So he held up the mirror, and when we see things that go on around us, that is the mirror. And when we're not paying attention, we think that is something that we're above, and we start blaming it. And rather than seeing the lesson that we can get out of it do I have any of those feelings within me? Do I engage in pedophilia? Have I ever abused anybody? Am I emotionally abusive? All of those things are, aspects of denial that we hold in often, and then it erupts because we have this veneer of being normal. And I think that veneer has to be completely smashed. And I think people need to start, quitting jobs that they hate and stop supporting things that keep the matrix, overflowing in our fear and in abundance for them, and lack and poverty and starvation and disease for us.
Yeah, and the judgment goes away when you realize that if you are completing your universal journey, then we've had to have done that somewhere along the way as well.
Exactly.
If we have been everything, if we have seen everything, and we have done everything, and actually been it, and that you never really know until you walk in those shoes. And if we're mastering light, if we're mastering everything this universe has to offer, that means we've done that too. And I have gotten up on stage and I have said I have been the most evil of evil that's ever existed. And I have been the most loving and caring and nurturing that has ever existed. And we had to have done it all, both sides of duality, both spectrums of light. And all the contrasting aspects of vibration and what light has to offer. So if we understand that about ourselves, then we get away from the self-righteous, judgmental state of being. I'm getting incredible feedback from people who have read the book, and I just wanted to share, if anyone's seen The Matrix, they've seen that when they're doing something that's going to affect the Matrix, or they're doing something good to start dismantling the Matrix, or it's going to have an effect on the Matrix to free people, it reacts straight away, and a person would turn into Mr. Smith. I hope people can understand what I'm talking about here. Oh, yeah. You really haven't seen the movie to understand. We experienced that with people just all of a sudden not being themselves and acting in a different way. Yeah. Friends, family, all sorts of things. People change instantly, and the Matrix reacts. And I want to share this email that we got from somebody who was just sitting down reading the book, and they say, yesterday I was in a nearby park peacefully reading away. I am right in the thick of the chapter on remembering the past. Well, I just got to the section describing the great deceiver, being Jehovah and the religions, and that's just one name for it. It's got every name in every culture. When a woman sits, Yahweh, when a woman sits down on the bench beside me and starts yipping away about being saved by Jesus, she went on and on about her love of God and Jesus, and how this changed her life. I'm thinking if she only knew what I am reading right at this moment. Well, after some time, I had to interject and wind her down, as she could have gone on for hours. I politely said, I respect your journey. Please respect mine as I continue my reading. She was fine with that and sailed off. The timing was perfect. And again, she says, thanks for the triggers you and George continue to provide. Really, it's a classic example of someone gets the book, they sit down in a park, they're reading it, and out of the blue, someone comes along and sits next to them, and exactly the subject matter that they're reading, the Matrix instantly sent somebody over to that person to try and negate and counteract the subject matter that the person was reading in the book. I mean, that is instant proof of the Matrix, and not only the earthly Matrix, but the cosmic Matrix reacting instantly to the energy and the information that is contained within that book. Oh, yes, yes. Well, that's why I say the more people that read this, the better, because it is absolutely, it will help remove the filters that have been placed over our eyes. I mean, they won't be fully removed until, we're in a higher state, when we're in the light, that we are already. But
this goes a long way towards helping us in our direction, in our journey home. So before we sign out today, I want to thank you for being here to do the second show, and anything that you want to share about your website, where people can find that book that I tell everybody, you've got to read this one. It's a must-read. Let's do that.
Well, there's the website for the book, which is ouruniversaljourney.com.au, and there's also the main website, which is ourjourneyhome.com.au. And people will find lots and lots of fantastic stuff there. And I just want to say there's also a documentary that's in the process of being made, which should be coming in the next 3 months. And we, an incredible creative director who's quite well known internationally in his field, has felt compelled to create a documentary about. Thankfully, it's very little about me, and it's mostly about the information that we're sharing.
Oh,
but
wonderful.
It's sort of like a bit of an aspect of my life in there. And but the information, and there's other people we talk to, these Aboriginal elders, an Aboriginal elder up here in the Flinders and Gammon Ranges, and really the content of this documentary is brilliant. So we're very excited about that too.
Oh, that's great. I love it. It's about time.
It's going to be called Our Journey Home, and Sean Vandenberg is doing a fantastic job with that. So we're very, very excited about that one coming out.
Wonderful.
Too.
Well, I can't wait for that one. We'll have to have you back again for, to talk about that as well.
Yeah, well, I'm absolutely honoured that you wanted to have me on your show, and I'm eternally grateful, Lance, and the work that you've done. I did say it last episode, but I just briefly want to mention it again in helping us to edit the book. I just, so many editors just want to do it their way, and you allowed my expression of my being to be maintained throughout the book, and you did it so unconditionally loving, and I just want you to know how much we appreciate that.
Oh, well, it was my pleasure. It was great fun, and fortunately, there was hardly anything to do. You wrote it almost perfectly. It was easy. Thank you so much, George. And
Thank you.
Anytime you want to come back and do another show, just give me a holler.
Oh, thank you, dear brother.
I love you and Cynthia very much.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to crossing paths with you in this physical domain as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap then. Situation that will continue on into 2012 and 2013, the acceleration?
Yeah, I do. It for me, it is part of the timeline accelerating, which I've been sharing with the harmonic equations I've been sharing to do with the timelines. And for me, it's like a logarithmic exponential acceleration. And as we're heading towards 0 point, and I think it's very, very exciting because we're bringing everything back into balance, and just that process of turning inside out, it really is quite challenging. I would say it's very challenging, at times confronting, and at times incredibly exhilarating. And it's a path of contrast, isn't it? Because we're bringing it in balance to fragmented aspects of ourselves. So I feel it's incredibly exciting.
Now, this is a time when you say turning inside out, that's actually a literal process, which has to do with quantum physics and the toroid and the rest of that. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit. But also, you mentioned the fragmentation. Isn't this a time when the fragments are, some of the fragments are coming together, or does each have its own journey in this process as we reach 0 point? And how does that? How do you see that playing out? Obviously, we're not all headed for the same island in the sky.
No, it is a little bit like Grand Central Station, where people are going in different directions and what have you. People have come here for short periods of time, and they've done what they've come here to do, and they're going to soon head off to wherever they need to go back to. Other people are here for a specific, intended outcome, which is I'm one of those people, and I came here to balance everything out so I could reintegrate myself back into a state of synchronicity and harmony and integrated oneness, if you want to put it that way. But it's more than just that. It's about reconnecting with our, this happens at the same time symbiotically, where reintegrating and reconnecting consciously aware with it's a conscious awareness integration and reconnection with our eternal essence. So it really is about being eternal once again. This aspect of us being eternal again, and it's an incredible feeling and process, because that's the key to it. It's about eternity. It's about infinite. It's about that immortality. And once you realise the power that comes with that state of being and that knowing, it's really quite incredible. We are, sorry to pause there for a moment, but like you said, we are integrating our fragmented aspects, and it's kind of like we hear that statement, and it's quite an intellectual concept that we first begin with, because that's the processes that we're used to, and to really integrate these fragmented aspects, it's a process of healing and mending those rifts.
Allows for better decisions during this time of great change. To facilitate our journey home, he has just come out with his first book called Our Universal Journey. I've had the privilege of reading it, and I can honestly say that this book is one of the most comprehensive and influential books of our times, and I recommend that everybody read it. It's a must-read. It will be highly controversial and divisive, since truth is not always wrapped in pretense. I encourage everyone to read it and trust that it will kindle awakening, universal love, and understanding. For those who resonate to George's workshops and DVDs, you will savor every word of this inspired writing. So let's welcome George back to the show now. Hi, George. Welcome back.
Good morning, Lance, and good evening, shall I say, as well.
Right. Good evening, good morrow, good afternoon. Well, doesn't it seem like time is flying? It just seems like we were talking seconds ago, and here we are again having another chat.
Yeah, it really is accelerating. Yeah,
it is accelerating. Do you feel that this is going to be a situation?
You are tuned in to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, and welcome to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Today, my guest is George Kavassilas, who returns to complete the second of two shows. In 2003, George was to have an experience that changed everything. His conscious spirit traveled up through the dimensions of our universe, and he rediscovered what life here is all about. He was able to know with certainty who we all are, where we come from, and where we are headed. He is here to reveal the deception and lies being imposed upon humanity from behind the scenes. His true intent is to empower people from within, which